It began not with a bang, but with a single fateful bullet. One shot on a quiet Sarajevo street, and the intricate tapestry of European peace began to unravel. Within weeks, ancient empires fell into lockstep, armies mobilized by the millions, and the 20th century was tragically baptized in fire. This is the profound story of how ambition, fear, and an intricate web of alliances collided, plunging civilization into a conflict that was supposed to end all wars, yet paradoxically laid the groundwork for future global upheaval. Join us as we explore the origins, brutal realities, and enduring legacy of the Great War, a conflict whose echoes still resonate today. The mid-1800s marked a period of profound transformation across Europe, a continent simmering with change. Old dynastic empires, once seemingly immutable, found themselves challenged by powerful new forces. Nationalism, a potent ideology emphasizing shared identity and self-determination, stirred populations from within, demanding political expression and often independent statehood. Italy, a patchwork of independent states, unified under the banner of Sardinia, creating a new major power in 1861. Simultaneously, Prussia, under the astute leadership of Otto von Bismarck, decisively defeated Austria in 1866. This victory led to the formation of the North German Confederation, a significant step towards German unification, fundamentally altering the balance of power. Then in 1871, after a swift and crushing victory over France in the Franco-Prussian War, the German Empire was declared. This momentous event occurred in the opulent Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, a deliberate, symbolic humiliation for France. From that pivotal moment forward, a palpable tension simmered beneath the polished marble of European diplomacy, setting the stage for future conflicts rooted in national pride and territorial grievances. In the wake of German unification, a complex system of alliances emerged, designed to deter enemies and ensure national dominance. Germany, seeking to secure its new position and isolate France, bound itself to the Austro-Hungarian Empire in the dual alliance of 1879. This pact aimed to counter potential threats from both France and Russia, creating a formidable Central European bloc. Italy, feeling marginalized and jealous of French colonial conquests, later joined them in 1882, forming the Triple Alliance. This pact created a formidable Central Powers bloc, ostensibly for defensive purposes. However, it also fostered an environment of mutual obligation, a security dilemma, where one nation's defensive measures were perceived as offensive threats by others, easily escalating local disputes into wider conflicts. France, still deeply embittered by the loss of Alsace-Lorraine to Germany, sought its own security. It turned to Russia, forming the Franco-Russian alliance in 1894, a strategic counterweight to the Triple Alliance. Britain, traditionally maintaining a policy of splendid isolation, grew increasingly wary of Germany's burgeoning naval power and aggressive foreign policy, particularly its Weltpolitik, world policy ambitions. This concern led Britain to gradually drift into alignment with France and Russia, culminating in the Triple Entente by 1907. This rival axis, though less formal than the Triple Alliance, effectively divided Europe into two armed camps. The continent was now precariously suspended between two great magnetic poles, each pulling harder than the last, creating an inherently unstable geopolitical landscape where a localized crisis could trigger a continental war. Beyond the intricate diplomatic dance within Europe, the major powers eyed fresh spoils across the globe. The scramble for colonies in Africa and Asia intensified, transforming distant lands into pawns in a high-stakes global game. These imperial ambitions fueled rivalries and added another layer of complexity to international relations, as economic competition intertwined with strategic dominance. Germany, for instance, embarked on an ambitious project to lay tracks for the Berlin-Baghdad Railway. This strategic infrastructure initiative directly threatened British control of vital Mesopotamian oil fields and access to India, a jewel in the British crown. Such economic and strategic competition exacerbated existing tensions, turning distant territories into flashpoints. The arms race, particularly in naval power, accelerated dramatically. The construction of powerful new battleships, known as dreadnoughts, became a symbol of national prestige and military might, sparking a costly Anglo-German naval rivalry. Tension simmered not just on land, but across vast oceans, as empires competed fiercely for dominance and resources. The world held its breath, sensing an impending storm, a global conflict driven by imperial greed and strategic paranoia. June 28, 1914. The date is etched into history. In the quiet Balkan city of Sarajevo, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was tragically assassinated. His killer was Gavrilo Princip, a young Serb nationalist driven by the desire for a unified South Slav state, part of the broader pan-Slavic movement. It was, on the surface, a local killing, a regional act of political violence. However, in an age defined by rigid alliances and heightened nationalistic fervor, no death was ever just one man's. The assassination ignited a chain reaction, exposing the fragility of European peace and the inherent flaws in the alliance system. Austria-Hungary, seeking to crush Serbian nationalism and reassert its authority in the Balkans, issued a harsh ultimatum to Serbia on July 23. Russia, seeing itself as the protector of Slavic peoples, mobilized in defense of Serbia. Germany, bound by treaty to Austria-Hungary and offering a blank check of unconditional support, declared its unwavering backing. France, in turn, stood firmly behind its ally Russia, fearing German hegemony. When Germany demanded free passage through neutral Belgium as part of its war plan, Britain, a guarantor of Belgian neutrality since 1839, stepped in. Within a matter of days, the intricate web of alliances snapped, and the world plunged into an unprecedented global conflict, a systemic failure of diplomacy. Germany's strategic blueprint for war was known as the Schlieffen Plan, conceived by Field Marshal Alfred von Schlieffen. This audacious plan called for a swift, decisive strike against France, bypassing its strong eastern defenses by invading through neutral Belgium and Luxembourg. The goal was to defeat France quickly within 6 weeks, then turn east to confront slow-mobilizing Russia, avoiding a two-front war. However, the plan immediately encountered unforeseen obstacles and critical miscalculations. Belgium, despite its small size, resisted fiercely, slowing the German advance and forcing them to commit more resources than anticipated. This unexpected resistance provided crucial time for Britain to mobilize its forces and enter the fray, honoring its commitment to Belgian neutrality and deploying the British Expeditionary Force, BEF. Outside Paris, at the River Marne, the French army, with crucial British support, launched a desperate counteroffensive in early September 1914. They managed to hold the German advance, preventing the swift victory Germany had anticipated and saving Paris. The German tide receded, marking the end of the illusion of a short, decisive war. The conflict, once expected to last mere weeks, ground to a brutal halt, and the era of static, attritional trench warfare began. From the North Sea to the Swiss border, a 700-kilometer scar of trenches, barbed wire, and no man's land split Europe. Millions of men dug in, creating an elaborate network of fortifications, a complex system of front-line, support, and reserve trenches. They fought and died for mere inches of ground, locked in a brutal stalemate that defied traditional military strategy. The battlefield was transformed by new technologies of destruction, fundamentally altering the nature of combat. Artillery barrages pulverized the landscape, creating a lunar terrain of craters and mud. Machine guns scythed down advancing infantry with terrifying efficiency, rendering frontal assaults suicidal. Poison gas, first used on a large scale in 1915, introduced a new, terrifying dimension to warfare, causing agonizing deaths and widespread panic. Aviation, still in its infancy, emerged not for glory, but for reconnaissance, bombing, and aerial combat, bringing death from above. The war's demands permeated every aspect of society, ushering in the era of total war. Civilians, including women, entered factories in unprecedented numbers to produce weapons and munitions, fundamentally changing societal roles. Food rationing became common, and children often went hungry. The war seeped into every household, every street. Every breath, becoming a national struggle that consumed nations entirely. The conflict quickly transcended its European origins, becoming a truly global war, reflecting the vast reach of European empires. Japan, seeking to expand its influence in Asia, joined the Entente in August 1914, seizing German colonial possessions in China and the Pacific, notably Qingtao. British dominions, including Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, sent hundreds of thousands of their young men to fight in Europe, demonstrating imperial loyalty and contributing significantly to the Allied effort. India's soldiers, part of the vast British Empire, landed in Mesopotamia and fought in the trenches of the Western Front, enduring unfamiliar climates and brutal conditions. Africans, often conscripted, fought for empires that did not yet recognize their rights or autonomy, highlighting the hypocrisy of colonial rule. The war exposed the interconnectedness of the world and the pervasive reach of imperial power, drawing diverse populations into a European conflict. The Ottoman Empire, strategically located and allied with the Central Powers, entered the war in October 1914. This move closed the vital Dardanelles Strait, attacked the Suez Canal, and targeted Russian territories in the Caucasus, opening new fronts. The Allies responded with a bold, yet tragically flawed, amphibious assault on Gallipoli in 1915. It ended in blood-soaked beaches and a costly deadlock, a testament to the brutal realities of modern warfare and poor strategic planning. Meanwhile, in the shadows of Anatolia, the Armenian genocide began, a horrific chapter of ethnic cleansing that claimed over 1 million lives. Verdun, fought from February to December 1916, became the longest battle of the war, a symbol of French resilience. The Germans launched a massive offensive with the explicit aim to bleed France white, hoping to break French morale through attrition. The French endured unimaginable barrages and relentless assaults, holding their ground with grim determination, under the rallying cry, "Ils ne passeront pas." They shall not pass. They did not break, but at immense cost. That summer, the British launched their own massive offensive along the Somme River, intended to relieve pressure on Verdun and achieve a breakthrough. On the first day alone, July 1, 1916, the British Army suffered nearly 60,000 casualties, with 20,000 dead. It remains the bloodiest day in British military history, a stark illustration of the futility of frontal assaults against entrenched machine guns. Tanks were used for the first time in September 1916, a glimpse into future warfare, but they were too few and too unreliable to break the stalemate. These battles, characterized by endless barrages, horrific casualties, and minimal territorial gains, symbolize the futility and immense human cost of the Western Front. The names carved into countless cemeteries, the broken helmets lying in the mud, all bore witness to the unfathomable sacrifice. Nothing, it seemed, was enough to achieve a decisive breakthrough, leading to a profound sense of disillusionment among soldiers and civilians alike. The war continued to expand, drawing in new participants and opening new fronts, demonstrating its truly global nature. Italy, initially neutral despite its membership in the Triple Alliance, was lured by promises of significant territorial gains from the Allies, including Austrian lands. It joined the Entente in 1915, opening a brutal new front in the treacherous Italian Alps, characterized by mountain warfare, extreme conditions, and high casualties. Bulgaria, seeking to reclaim lost territories from the Balkan Wars, joined the Central Powers in October 1915. Its entry proved crucial in helping to crush Serbia, which had bravely resisted for over a year against Austro-Hungarian and German forces. The Balkan Front became another theater of intense fighting, further destabilizing the region and highlighting the complex ethnic and political rivalries that fueled the conflict. At sea, Germany's U-boats, or submarines, became a formidable weapon, striking without warning against Allied shipping and disrupting vital supply lines. The sinking of the British passenger liner Lusitania in May 1915, which resulted in the deaths of 1,200 people, including 128 Americans, caused international outrage and shifted American public opinion. Germany temporarily pulled back from unrestricted submarine warfare due to diplomatic pressure, but the incident highlighted the growing threat to neutral shipping and foreshadowed American involvement. The year 1917 witnessed two seismic events that fundamentally reshaped the war's trajectory, altering the balance of power decisively. First, the infamous Zimmermann telegram was intercepted in January. This secret communication revealed Germany's audacious attempt to persuade Mexico to declare war on the United States, promising the return of lost territories in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. This proposal, combined with Germany's resumption of unrestricted submarine warfare in February, pushed American public opinion decisively towards intervention. America, which had maintained a policy of neutrality and isolationism, had finally had enough. On April 6, 1917, the United States declared war on Germany, bringing immense industrial capacity, fresh manpower, and significant financial resources to the Allied cause. This entry would prove decisive in the war's final year, providing a much-needed morale and material boost to the exhausted Allied powers. That same year, Russia, exhausted by war and internal strife, fractured. The February Revolution toppled the Tsarist autocracy, and later, the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power in the October Revolution. By early 1918, the new Bolshevik government, prioritizing internal stability, signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with Germany, a harsh peace that ceded vast territories and resources. Russia, one of the original Allied powers, officially exited the war, allowing Germany to transfer millions of troops to the Western Front. Freed from the costly Eastern Front after Russia's withdrawal, Germany seized a final desperate opportunity. They transferred millions of troops westward, launching a series of massive offensives in the spring of 1918, known as the Spring Offensive or Kaiserschlacht. These offensives aimed to achieve a decisive victory before the full weight of American forces could be brought to bear, a race against time. The German stormtroopers, employing new infiltration tactics and short, intense artillery bombardments, achieved significant initial breakthroughs. They reached the Marne River once more, threatening Paris for the first time since 1914, causing widespread panic. The situation was dire for the Allies, who faced their greatest challenge yet, with their lines stretched thin and their forces depleted. At this time, the Allies had crucial reinforcements. American troops, fresh, well-fed, and determined, began arriving in large numbers, providing a vital morale boost and much-needed manpower. Germany, despite its initial successes, could not break through the reinforced Allied lines, suffering unsustainable casualties. Then, in August 1918, the Allies launched the 100 Days Offensive. This coordinated series of attacks, utilizing tanks and improved combined arms tactics, systematically pushed back the German forces. The German line, stretched and exhausted, finally cracked permanently. As the Allied offensive gained momentum, the Central Powers began to crumble, one by one. Bulgaria, facing overwhelming pressure on the Salonika front, was the first to sign an armistice in September 1918. The Ottoman Empire, its forces depleted and its territories under attack in the Middle East, followed suit in October, ending centuries of imperial rule. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, a multi-ethnic state held together by dynastic rule, dissolved from within. Its diverse populations, inspired by national self-determination and the promise of independent states, declared independence, giving birth to new nations like Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and a truncated Austria and Hungary. The ancient Habsburg monarchy, which had ruled for centuries, came to an end, a casualty of the war and rising nationalism. Germany, facing military defeat and widespread domestic unrest, fractured from within. Sailors mutinied in Kiel, workers rose in protest, and the Kaiser, Wilhelm II, abdicated his throne on November 9th. On November 11, 1918, at 11 a.m., the guns fell silent. An armistice was signed in a railway carriage in Compiègne, bringing an end to 4 years of unprecedented global carnage and ushering in a new, uncertain era. 6 months later, in June 1919, The victorious Allied powers gathered in the very same Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, where the German Empire had been declared. The Treaty of Versailles, signed here, aimed to establish a lasting peace, but its terms were harsh and punitive, particularly towards Germany, reflecting the desire for retribution. Germany was branded the sole aggressor under Article 231, the War Guilt Clause, forced to accept full responsibility for the war. It suffered significant territorial losses, severe military restrictions, and crippling reparations payments, totaling billions of marks. This immense debt and the humiliation it imposed fostered deep resentment and instability within Germany, creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies. The Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires were gone, replaced by a mosaic of fragile new states and bitter territorial claims, many of which contained significant ethnic minorities. The League of Nations was born, an ambitious international organization designed to prevent future conflicts through collective security and diplomacy. However, its effectiveness was hampered by the absence of key powers like the United States, which never joined. Hope for a lasting peace was fleeting, as the seeds of future conflict were inadvertently sown by a peace that was too harsh to conciliate and too lenient to incapacitate. The Great War left an indelible mark on humanity, fundamentally reshaping the 20th century. An estimated 18 million people, both military and civilian, lay dead, and millions more were wounded or displaced. Entire generations were decimated, and the physical and psychological scars ran deep across continents, leading to widespread disillusionment and trauma. The world was irrevocably reordered, politically, socially, and economically. The United States emerged as a dominant global power, its economic and military might now undeniable, shifting the global center of power westward. Russia, transformed by revolution, became the Soviet Union, a new ideological force that would shape the 20th century's geopolitical landscape. The war also exposed the inherent weaknesses of colonialism, as cracks began to show in the vast European empires, fueling independence movements. Across Europe, wounded nations whispered of revenge, of rebirth, and of new political ideologies like fascism and communism, which promised order amidst chaos. The war to end all wars had, tragically, only been the beginning. It reshaped borders, redefined warfare, accelerated social change, and laid the complex groundwork for the tumultuous decades that followed, including the rise of totalitarian regimes and, ultimately, another global conflict. Understanding this conflict is crucial to comprehending the modern world and the enduring challenges of international relations. If this journey through history has deepened your understanding of the Great War's profound impact, please subscribe to our channel for more in-depth explorations of hidden histories and their lasting legacy. Share this video to spark discussion among your peers, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on the Great War's most profound legacy or any questions you may have. Your engagement helps us continue bringing these vital stories to light and fostering a deeper appreciation for historical analysis.